Today's scripture reading is Micah 6, verses 1 to 8. God challenges Israel. Hear what the Lord says. Rise, plead your case before the mountains, and let the hills hear your voice. Hear, you mountains, controversy of the Lord, and you enduring foundations of the earth. For the Lord has a controversy with his people, and he will contend with Israel. O my people, what have I done to you? In what have I wearied you? Answer me. For I brought you up from the land of Egypt, and redeemed you from the house of slavery. And I sent before you Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. O my people, remember now what King Balak of Moab devised, what Balaam, son of Beor, answered him, and what happened from Shittim to Gilgal, that you may know the saving acts of the Lord. What God requires. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with tens of thousands of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God?
Hi everyone. Next hymn is a little bit more involved than usual, so I thought I would just explain it a little bit. So this is Voices United 701. This is what we call Around. So you'll see there are 3 lines above the piano labeled 1, 2, and 3. We'll be singing the first line all the way through, and then we'll sing the second line all the way through. And then we'll sing the third line all the way through, and then after that, you can choose for another 3 repeats. So that's 6 times in total, and if you're confused, you really can't get it wrong. It all sounds good at the same time. So maybe.
Let us stand in body or spirit, and we'll sing together. What does the Lord require of you? 701 in Around. I'm going to invite our special guests up. Please give a warm welcome to Susan Wood and Elyse Brazel. Welcome. Thank you. So yeah, we thought we'd do a little something different. You know, Knox has been going through so much change. There's so much change in our world, in the city, and it sounds like a lot of change with the Calgary Alliance. So we're going to have a conversation about what it is like to participate in larger justice-seeking, doing kindness in the world, like we just sung. So let's start maybe with introductions. Why don't you please share your name, pronouns, anything else you want us to know. You know, maybe who you represent. Yeah, and let's throw in there. I want to know the question, what does social action look like to you? To get us started.
Hi, everybody. My name's Elyse Brazel. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm an organizer with the Calgary Alliance for the Common Good. I've been there for about 2 years. And for me, what social action looks like, my connection to social justice is rooted in seeing people of faith put that faith into action. I didn't grow up in any faith tradition, and the only thing I really knew about religion was what I saw on TV. So lots of controversy and conflict and people with signs that said they hated the people I loved. So I wasn't a huge fan. But I ended up taking an internship working with folks from different Christian traditions in Toronto, where they lived and worked with refugee claimants. And every day, they lived out the call to welcome the stranger. And it was that process of seeing people actually put their faith into action that made me recognize that faith can be a force for good in the world. And so out of that, I recognized when working with people from around the world that it's not just Christianity. It's every community has a call to seek justice in the world. And imagine what could happen if we pooled our resources to do this together. Came together despite our differences, recognizing that we had common values, and moving through the world shoulder to shoulder to actually address the issues that our community face on a regular basis. So for me, social action is about bringing people together to know one another, to build relationship, but then also to act together on the issues that are most pressing. So I'll pass myself along.
Thanks for that, yeah.
I think you've stolen my thunder. I'm Susan Wood. Many of you have seen me at least or know me. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I guess in terms of representation, I'm here representing the Calgary Alliance at Knox. We pay our dues. We don't do much else at the moment. However, I think while this doesn't have to be our only social justice concern or social action in the world, that it's important to have a few people at least who would like to contribute to the Calgary Alliance as well as the justice concerns at Knox. I think paying our dues is not necessarily enough. As for social action itself, I think of the word others. Working with others, listening to others, reflecting on what we hear with others in our community, in Calgary, in the world. And making decisions with not alone, but with others. And doing marching, lobbying, showing up for a particular cause in our community, in our church, and outside of our community in the world. So that's the widest definition that I can think of.
Thank you. You know, I appreciate you saying this. By the way, I'm Keith Murray. In case you don't know, I use they, them pronouns, but we'll answer to anything said respectfully or sassily. And I was thinking about this too, and I loved our conversation that, you know, sometimes we think about social justice as marching in the streets, which can be amazing, like to sing songs together and to really show your presence of solidarity. But sometimes social justice can look like, you know, showing up as a treasurer and just being at the meetings, or a secretary taking notes. I was thinking about a time inspired by one of the Calgary Alliance movements where, to try and get the Green Line going through at City Council, people showed up wearing green scarves. And when I was involved later with a campaign to try and support bylaws to make this city safer for gender and sexually diverse people from practices of conversion therapy, somebody went and cut and made rainbow scarves for us to show, so we would all be visible when we showed up at City Hall. And so there's many different ways that you can participate in social justice that don't have to look like marching in the streets, you know. So with that, you know, we're talking about coming together. Can you tell a little bit about what is the Calgary Alliance? Like, who's it made up of? What does it do?
So for those of you who don't know, the Calgary Alliance is an organization that's made up of different member institutions. And the idea behind it is that we want to bring people from the civic sector, so people who are from faith communities, from unions, from ethnocultural communities, together. And as they build relationship, they also build power. So we come together in the hopes that we have enough relational power to actually make a difference and to have our voices heard. So the mayor, for example, she said to us when we've had meetings together that the reason that she actually pays attention to us is because she knows that it's not one institution, but it's 30 institutions representing 35,000 people here in Calgary who come to her and have done the listening and the hard work of actually engaging their own communities to find out what they're dealing with and what's the most pressing issues that they're hearing across the city.
Did you say something like, how many orgs? There's like 30?
About 30, yeah.
But they represent how many people?
About 35,000.
Right? So, you know, that voice together of 35,000.
Yeah.
It's taken seriously.
Yeah, the reason that the mayor has meetings with us is because she knows that we are a constituent of people who care about what's going on and are actually trying to make change for the best for the city as a whole. And so how we do that, my job as an organizer is to go out and find leaders, find people who are passionate, who care about the issues, and who actually want to make a difference. And my job is to bring them into the Calgary Alliance and to help develop their leadership skills, give them understandings of the foundational levels of relational organizing and how do you do this work well. So we've been around for, I think that there was stirrings since like 2010, but the founding for the Alliance was actually 2019 here in this room, and there was about 800 people, I think, sitting in the pews, and everyone was wearing green scarves. The symbol that brings us all together. We're all from different faith backgrounds, unions, cultural communities, but what united us was the green scarves. So it gives people an understanding of who we are and the power we hold when we walk into City Hall and there's 300 people wearing green scarves saying, we need housing to be dealt with. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah.
That's great. Susan, you were there for that meeting. Tell me a little bit about Knox's involvement in the formation of Calgary Alliance.
Okay, my involvement started before that meeting.
Okay.
But I guess I have to begin with Reverend Dr. Dave Holmes, who specifically actually came to Knox in order to promote the fledgling alliance. He had been on the board, I think, of the Interfaith Coalition, and it was out of that the alliance grew. For my part, I became involved almost from when Dave arrived here, and asked a few of us to go to a discernment assembly, which wasn't held here. It was actually held in the Bethany Care Center. And at that meeting, we voted on issues that we wanted to tackle in the coming year. So out of that meeting, one of the issues chosen was reconciliation. So I joined the reconciliation group in 2015, and from 2016 until the week before the pandemic lockdown, I was secretary of the group. I left the group for mainly personal reasons, and but I did not resign from the Alliance. So I have since attended only a couple of meetings when I was invited, and hope to get back to it in the near future. But I think it's important that Knox begin to work, as we work to restructure ourselves, to remember where we came from. I think many of the people that were here when Dave was here, because he got, I'm sure, close to everyone in the congregation to show up for that meeting. And the place was packed. And we formed most of the packing, I think. So that was his last hurrah. And it was a very, very good one.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so...
Maybe I'll ask next. So that's really interesting. You talked about a little bit forming together and choosing issues like, how does the Alliance work? Like, you know, often in our cities or in our culture, there are certain voices that don't get heard, that are, you know, not listened to. So what's the sort of process of listening, and how do you identify issues to work on together?
Everything we do at the Alliance is based in a relationship. That is the foundation of the work that we do. One-on-one conversations, group conversations. And the process of how we decide what we focus on, it starts with those conversations. So we do, in the organizing cycle, the thing that we begin with is listening. So we train leaders from congregations like yours who want to participate in a listening campaign, and we train them how to have conversations and ask meaningful questions, and how to go into their own communities and listen to what's going on, what the people in their own communities are dealing with, what their family and friends are dealing with. And the process is that you get to listen to each other, but also you find resonances of things that you didn't even realize that were going on. Little do you know, someone here in this room is dealing with housing issues. Someone here is concerned about the environment. There's folks who you'll find when you get in a room together, so we have little small house meetings, enough people in a room to kind of have a good conversation. You find commonalities between you, and in that process we find the issues that are popping up, but we also recognize that there are other people who care about this, and maybe we can work together. And so from that we hold discernment assemblies. So we bring everyone from, all of the delegates from the different institutions together to have conversations about what is it that you heard in your own community? What were the biggest themes that you heard as issues that people were dealing with? And we look at what are the commonalities across the city. And from that, we find people are given an opportunity to, as an individual, but also as an institution, decide what they care most about and where they want to put their energy. And that's what the part of the research action teams is. So once we decide on what we're going to focus on as a larger community, then people have the opportunity to join the teams that are focused on the issues that they care about most. So they can decide where their energy wants to go as an institution, but also as a person. And that's the process. We go in and we listen to those who might not have the time to be a part of something larger, but can have a one-on-one conversation with someone to identify, the things that they're dealing with. Maybe they're dealing with they're dealing with childcare issues. They can't actually access some of the services they need. And so that's the process, is going in, connecting intentionally with those communities, and also recognizing at the Alliance who is at our table, but who is not at our table. Whose voices do we not have? And being very intentional about going forth and finding ways to actually give them a space to have a voice at that table. So right now we're working really intentionally with Action Dignity to talk to the communities, the smaller ethnocultural communities who might not have a pipeline to talk to the mayor, but through our interactions and connections with them, we're finding ways that they are able to actually have a voice in this city and have the support of the larger city alongside them. So when their issues are given, it's not a newcomer issue, it is an issue for everyone.
That's really fascinating. So this process is really collaborative and consensus-based, and it's a way that everyone has a voice. And so, Susan, I'm curious, we've been through a time of change. Is doing a listening campaign something that we might want to do at Knox?
I think so. I hope so.
To listen to our community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, we don't have to just listen, I think that Knox has, it's obvious that Knox has been, the pandemic has been very hard.
We've been on a journey. The whole world has been through a journey this last 3 years, right?
Yes,
We're in a different place.
Yeah, and we need to reflect.
Yeah.
On what went wrong, what is going right, how we can do better in our interpersonal relations and our relations to the United Church. How we can become a united church, one might say. The other thing is that I think a listening campaign would work both inward and outward. First, by listening to each other, and then to the people outside our doors. So that we can look outward to the issues that matter to us, and eventually, hopefully, be a part of the Calgary Alliance in working on those issues to the best of our individual abilities, or to see how the Alliance can help us as a congregation to grow and develop.
And Elyse, you were saying that, so the issues this year, it sounds like the Alliance has been through a few changes over the last 3 years as well. So what are the issues being focused on right now?
So because the Alliance is made up of institutions that have been dealing with change and transition, the Alliance has been really intentional this year. They decided that instead of working, we're pausing the campaigns that we've been doing that are outwardly focused and doing more internal work. There's a Jewish agricultural tradition called the Shemitah year. Does anyone know what this is? Every 7 years, you leave the fields fallow, which means that you don't harvest, you don't prune, you don't do a whole bunch of things. And it's because we all need rest so that we are able to reflect and change, and the land too requires an opportunity to take space and to come together and to re-energize. And so that's the purpose of this year, is us in the Alliance. We want our member institutions to do that work for themselves, because we know that when you are stronger as an organization, that we are stronger as a collective. And so doing something like the listening campaign, doing something like getting core teams trained up so that they're able to understand how they can be most effective to actually make change in the city. The opportunities for people who are in the different institutions to come and actually take training and learn and grow as a person, so that come September, we're able to then come together and actually be able to do the work well.
Yeah.
So
that's, I mean, who doesn't feel the need for rest? We often forget that the seventh day was made holy to rest, that rest is ordained. And in this culture, we're so busy and we've been through a lot. And, you know, maybe we need time to listen and grow and recharge and reconnect. And that's what we're trying to do as a community. And I want to invite us all after, if you're interested in being a part of this, to make a team that maybe can help us listen to our community, to understand what's on our hearts and minds. Just put your name down, sign up, and maybe over a lunch we could organize a chance to listen to each other and really see who we are as a community, what's on our hearts and minds. And I know, because we're all feeling burnt out. Like, it's hard. There's one thing after another. The earth is on fire. Like, you know, every Sunday, every time we pray, and well, today there's so much in the world. And I guess, you know, maybe that's a question. When we are all burnt out, when, you know, maybe we just want to go home, like, why should we care? When times are tough, why would we reach out? Like, what are your thoughts there? Yeah?
On a very basic level, I think that listening to each other helps us to feel less alone. I think that we're fragmented in our minds and maybe our souls. And we discover by doing things together that our self-interest is bound up with the interests of other people, of the people in this room. I'm not totally alone. You're all out there. So hopefully we can become more and more aware of that by listening to each other. And eventually discovering that together we're stronger and more able to take action and more able to have the courage to live out our convictions.
Beautiful. Yeah. What about you? Any thoughts there?
On how do we...
Yeah. You know, about this idea of working together. You had shared a quote that maybe I thought was really beautiful in our conversation this week. Do you want to share that?
Yeah.
Do you have it?
I wrote it down because
Oh, yeah.
I'm bad at remembering things.
I thought this was really cool.
So this is a quote from a woman named Lila Watson. She's an Indigenous leader in Australia. And when I was talking about the way that we work as an alliance, if we were a group of good do-gooders, we wouldn't get very far. But we recognize the interconnected nature of all of us, and that we need to work in solidarity. And so the quote that Lila Watson has is that if you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. We have to recognize that we're in this together, and that what the issues that your family are facing are important, and that they are things that are in common with other folks. And so the only way that we're all going to reach liberation is by working together.
Yeah. Your thriving is my thriving. Amen. Well, I really want to thank you both for this amazing conversation.
Wait a minute, there was one more quote.
Oh, you want that one? Okay, well, some of you, did you get to be here for the Affirming Connections Day with Reverend Yolanda Norton, the founder of Beyonce Mass? Anyhow, if you haven't heard about Beyonce Mass, check it out. But one of the things that she said, which I thought was really interesting, we often use this language of allyship, but Yolanda had shared that she grew up in a military family, and allyship is a military tactic that is used to band together people with differences to fight against an other. So we create another other that we fight against. And she said, does that actually work? Or does that just create another enemy? And what she said, instead of allyship, the language she prefers is solidarity, because it recognizes that your thriving is my thriving, that none of us are okay unless all of us are okay. And then we're profoundly linked together. And I like that. So I'm trying to personally move away from language of allyship and towards solidarity. So friends, change starts with listening. So I encourage us all this week to listen to each other, to get more involved. And there's some opportunities. And for all of you who are attending Knox, you're a part of the Calgary Alliance. So you can go, and there's some workshops coming up. You can take, some of them are free. One of them is only $20 and it includes food. So yeah, tell us about those.
It's down here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the first one is Tuesday, January 30th, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. on Zoom. And it's a core group training. So that is a handful of people.
Just a little closer.
That is a handful of people, maybe anywhere from 3 to 6, let's say, who would be interested in forming a group here at Knox to begin work on a listening campaign here. And but if you're just interested, it doesn't require any commitment, and of course it's free. So that is from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Tuesday, January the 30th. The second one is Foundations for Community Organizing. That's I've taken that training, I think, 3 times. And it's a full-day workshop on a Wednesday, February 7th, from 9 a.m. to 4:30 at Temple B'nai Tikva. And it's $20 basically for the food and for other services that are provided there. So
all this info is in the bulletin. So
yeah.
You can just go to the calgarycommongood.org website, and there's info about the upcoming ones there. You can sign up. Super easy.
And if anyone wants to have a conversation or has questions.
Yes, join us after for coffee, and let's get to know each other. Let's listen to each other. Thank you. Let's give a big, warm Knox applause of appreciation. Thank you so much.